I guess, I'll give an example of something, of one area where I really kind of discovered something that, in a way, I thought I already knew. Um, I grew up in the South, and in the South, if you're a white man in the South, you're privileged. But I grew up in a very, very progressive family. My mom and dad were both very, in the U.S. we'd say on the liberal, very extreme liberal side of the ledger. And so I grew up, surrounded by diversity, and my parents were staunch defenders of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Before we called it diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'll never forget. We were moving from Texas to Kentucky, and my mom was driving the car, my dad was driving the rental truck with our furniture, and we stopped in the middle of actually Texarkana, Texas, I think, and my dad wasn't there. My mom, got us all out of the station wagon, and we went inside to have lunch in a little diner back then that looked like something out of a TV show, from the 1950s. It had the long bar with you get the ice cream soda or whatever, you could get a hamburger or something. So I was 6 years old, and we sat down in a booth there in the little diner, and my mom, as we came in the door, she got stuck up at the front of the counter, which, and I didn't really notice what was going on, but apparently she was having a discussion with the person at the front, which my mom didn't do. And I mean, like a discussion, like an argument. And then she came over and she grabbed, me by the shirt and all of us and just marched us right out of there. And I later found out that there was a sign in the door that once we got inside that she saw that said, we reserve the right to serve who we choose. And she asked the person at the front desk what that meant, and he said, "Well, we don't serve anybody we don't want to. No blacks, no Jews, no service." And so we left. And so my mom was as close to being an activist for a mother of four in those times as you could probably get. So I grew up, feeling like I really got it, and then when I apologize for making this answer so long, but when George Floyd happened here in the U.S., which was just one of many, murders of black men and women that have happened during my lifetime, I was sitting at my dining room table one day, or my kitchen table during the pandemic, contemplating how horrible that was, and it got me thinking about apartheid in South Africa, and I was thinking, I'm a public company CEO, but I was thinking, why didn't those white leaders in South Africa speak up sooner? Because they weren't all bad people. I mean, they had to be a lot of good people in leadership roles. And then it kind of hit me like a frying pan in the head, that I haven't used my platform, and I'm one of those people, who's not doing anything. And it was that moment, that was like, wow, I just did not realize how little I'd done, and that was so transformational for me. And I then went through the process of reaching out to every black friend I had, and apologizing. And I mean, to a person, it was interesting because I got 100% exactly the consistent feedback, which was caring, listening, never saying you didn't do anything wrong, because I did, but never criticizing, and just giving me the feeling, I'm glad you crossed over to the right side of this. And I learned that, and it made me think how incredibly tolerant and patient underrepresented groups are in general with all of us who are not underrepresented. And I felt so appreciative after that. It stimulated so many thoughts in me. Like, one of them was, wow, I'm surprised there's not more violent action, kind of, verging on or even being terrorism in the U.S. around this topic. But it must be just an incredible demonstration of the patience and integrity of the people who've led this movement towards a better world in the U.S. And because it hasn't happened. it just hasn't. There's not been any. I mean, so it made me so appreciative of the attitude of all underrepresented people, but especially the Black community in the U.S. I really felt so thankful and so sorry, and I still do. And so it's just one example of where I felt like, gosh, I discovered something big that was right in front of me all the time that I thought I knew that I didn't know anything about. And I'll add one more thing, and I apologize. This answer's going a little long. Since that moment, I've become just an incredible advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I thought I was before. I was on every diversity council in every company I was in. I was leading it. I was setting goals on. But now I know I am, and I'm for real. And I'm only satisfied with results. Actions are okay, but results are everything. But one of the things I've been trying to do is learn. So I've been in a learning frenzy. Deep learning all the time, not just about people of color, but also about everything, trans, you name it. And it's interesting because just to the point where I feel like I kind of get it, an area, I feel like, okay, now I finally have kind of mastered this. And then I feel all of a sudden my head pokes through the ceiling and the ceiling goes away. And I realize I'm in this gymnasium again of things that I didn't understand. And so there's so much to learn. And so I just continue to realize how much there is to learn in the area of DE&I.